Joy, there's no problem there. When people are happy around me and you're happy, cool. Too bad life's not like that. Or fear, or sorrow. In the example of the little boy, he was frightened of performing. He was angry. Remember when he said, I only have 10 minutes? The man who wrote that. I only have 10 minutes. What's 10 minutes? He was sad that he was going to have that experience. At the end, I'm sure he experienced some joy because he played well. Those are the 4 basic feelings. So when you deal with another person and you decide to have a talk with him or her about their response to you, keep those in mind. Because it's going to either be fear, anger, or sorrow. And more often than not, anger. Okay? You need to remember, especially in our next talk, those 4 feelings. Because it's going to lead us into how to read other people. You've got to memorize those 4 feelings.
Okay?
Yeah.
Real quick, is there some kind of perspective that only one of these seems like a good feeling, or joy seems good, or the others seem like negative feelings?
That's true. With your children, for example, think of when they were in the high chair. You never had to teach them to get scared of something. Now we have to do this. Come with me. And the kid is shaky. No, you can't have that. You have to have this. What does the kid do? Anger. Or, I'm sorry, Susie, Woozy, it's time for bed. Sadness. So the basic human being, the basic feelings of human beings are these 3. Joy does not necessarily mean happiness. It can also mean, as the Apostle Paul talks about in Philippians, contentment, okayness, feeling confident, feeling in a neutral kind of zone or place. The other feelings that we experience are more prevalent. And when other people are reacting strangely to us, we don't know what that's about. For example, in some of those responses that had to do with, like, rebellion is anger at past authority figures. And now, that anger at past authority figures now comes into the present. See, we live out our life scripts over and over and over again. We have a fundamental personality in us. We don't have the time to go into the scope of various personality types. That's a whole weekend in and of itself. But I see Jeffrey Dyer. I can see me at 5 years old or 6 years old, the same traits naturally that come to me as when I was little. I don't think I've ever said this in public before, but I'll make this admission. When I was about 8 or 9 years old, there was kind of a forest near our house. And I used to stand up on a stump.
Don't hurt yourself.
And I would talk to imaginary people. I was not psychotic or crazy. But I'd be giving the talk. And I would be over them. And I would be explaining life, God, our personhood. Wouldn't you know it? That's what I'm doing today. Though I'm not standing up here. Because I was born with those tendencies. I could go into my background, my parents, but My tendencies come from three things, leaving God out of it first. The biochemistry of my mother and father, as that would connect. The conditioning of my parents and my family. And just the way all that stuff lands, the special part of me. In Jeremiah, God speaks about how each one of us is unique, that He knew us before our very birth. And we are unique. What I'm getting at is that we need to understand our basic emotions and know that they're operative in other people, and that people, more often than not, are projecting onto us their feelings. But let's go a step further. One time, I was in a psychotherapy group, and the man started, I won't go through the whole story, it's too long, screaming about his mother and how she had messed up his life, and that he was still angry with her, even though he was in his late 40s. He was furious at his mother. And he had a lot of good reasons, it sounded to me. But then the wise psychiatrist, it was one of the exceptional psychiatrists that didn't just give meds, but actually did psychotherapy, asked the group, how many of you are uncomfortable in Noel, what's the guy's name? Anger towards his mother. Raise your hand and be honest. I raised my hand. And a woman over there raised her hand, a guy raised his hand, somebody else raised his hand. And then the psychiatrist said, all of you with your hand raised have mother issues, don't you? And he was exactly right. All of us have had issues with our mother. And that's why when he was yelling and carrying on, we hook right into it. Get ready for this, don't miss it. The unfinished business in you is what you project onto other people. Whatever isn't worked out in yourself, you project onto other people. I think I'm pretty good at doing psychological work with patients. But my whole career has included always being in psychotherapy. Every week. It's a check I can't stand writing, but I do. Because of the problem that, let's say you and I, Mike, are talking, I may confuse my mother's stuff with your mother's stuff. And if I'm not clear about my mother's stuff, then I'm going to project onto you, or as Freud called it, counter-transfer onto you, that was his term for projection, counter-transfer onto you the issues about my mother with your mother. And then I'm not helping you. Does everybody understand what I'm getting at? The unfinished business in me, I project onto other people. The more I am mindful or aware of my issues in life, the clearer I am to be a vessel for Christ's power and love to come through me. All right? I mean, I've laid out some heavy stuff here. Yeah? Yes?
It seemed to me that everybody has issues with his mother as a child, a baby, Don't put your finger on the stove and do this and do that. Obviously, some people overcome it or never get there. Am I right? Everybody has an issue. Some overcome it, or what?
Well, what you've asked is actually profound. There are things that our mothers do, for example, that are just common sense parenting that I, as a child, don't like. I want to put my finger on the stove, my mom pulls me back. Well, that's just good parenting. But suppose you grew up with a mother who always compared you to the kid down the street. Or suppose you had a mother who told you from when you were very young, you're always wrong. And you're never going to amount to anything. You're going to be just like her dad, a big loser. You see, those are mother issues that are non-transitory. Those are issues that are now a part of you. You see, in my mind and in yours, I can hear my mother and father's voices all the time. Things they told me when I was growing up. Now, my mom and dad were bad people, but I fired them as parents many years ago. Because I don't think they knew what they were doing, to be honest. I really don't. I think they were good people, kind. But where did I get my nurture? I got it primarily from the church, and I got it primarily from mentors, men that I grew up with that I thought were wise and smart, and I listened to. So, what is psychotherapy, for instance? Psychotherapy is creating for people options of thinking. You can live out the script of your parents for the rest of your life. And if that script isn't a healthy one, you're going to reproduce that behavior the rest of your life. It's been said that dysfunctional families exist to reproduce dysfunctional families. And I wish we had time to get into it. But we could talk about in great detail why you chose the person you chose to marry.
Amen.
And that has to do with your family of origin, in no small part. There are unconscious things that are active in our lives that are scientific, as all get at, as to why we choose the people we choose. You know, some people have gone through divorce. And some people get married again, and that marriage doesn't work out, and they get married again, and that marriage doesn't work out, and they get married again, and that marriage doesn't work out. It's not that they're bad people. It's what they don't understand is they keep choosing the same person, just with different characteristics. Or as I like to put it, there's a catalog of this kind of personality, and you chose this mom. Now you chose that mom. And you find when you go through relational histories with people, they keep choosing the same people over and over and over again. You ever meet a gal, for instance, where she's really attracted, and then other than the sexual feelings which you normally have as men, there's no reason for it, but you just don't have the chemistry? You just don't like her? And you can't figure out even why? That's because of what we're talking about. That person needs to meet certain unconscious needs. Okay, I want to move on now. Don't forget to mark those down. Joy, fear, anger, and sorrow, because we're going to come back to it. I want to talk about the opposite of projection. And I'm not going to do what I had planned because of the time. Right? I was going to have you take that picture of the violin kid again. Since it's such a lousy picture, we'll skip it. And I was going to have you do it the reverse way. What did you do to cause the kid to feel that way?
Say it again?
What did you do to cause this young man in the picture to feel that way? What might you have done?
Oh, that I wrote earlier.
Right. The young man. Introjection is taking on what doesn't belong to you. This man was impolite to me the other night, condescending, arrogant, talked down to me, and so forth. And unfortunately, another pastor. And the thing is that I felt badly about our conversation.